If you've ever felt like the outsider or been scared to walk into a room because you knew everyone would stare, or if you've ever had to teach your child how to be kind in a world that sometimes isn't, or if you're ready to engage with a heartfelt, powerful novel that shows us what it means to be human through the eyes of a boy who looks very different from everyone else, if so, then today's book just might be for you. Today, I'll be reviewing Wonder by R.J. Palacio. Welcome to Spencer Reads Everything. I'm your host, Spencer Duncan, and I finally picked up Wonder thanks to a recommendation from my friend Trevor, who had just read it with some of his children, and he spoke very highly of it. I'd been aware of the book for some time now, mostly because of the movie adaptation, though I haven't actually seen the film yet, so I was aware of Wonder. It was out in the culture. I had some awareness of it, especially for middle school readers. I believe that this is frequently read in schools, especially in the middle school years. But like I said, I had not personally explored it myself, although I must say I'm very glad that I finally did pick this one up. If you enjoy powerful stories that explore what it means to be human, or if you're just interested in this emotionally rich middle school fiction that speaks just as clearly to adults, or if you're just looking for a great story to read with or recommend to a young person, then I think that this is certainly a book that you can enjoy. This story is an excellent way to help people of all ages, especially kids, to appreciate that everyone, regardless of their skills or their appearance or their intelligence or background, is a wonder. The author, R.J. Palacio, is the pen name of Raquel Jaramillo Palacio, an American author and graphic designer who was born in 1963, and before becoming a celebrated novelist, she spent over 2 decades in the publishing industry as a book cover designer, which would help explain why the cover on her books are so interesting. She helped create covers for authors like Paul Auster and Thomas Pynchon, and she also wrote and illustrated a number of children's board books under her given name. This book, Wonder, it was her breakout novel. It was published in 2012, and it catapulted her into a literary fame, and she became a beloved touchstone to middle school literature. It was later adapted into a 2017 film starring Julia Roberts and Owen Wilson, the one that I've already referenced, and the success of the book Wonder led to a string of related works, including ones like 365 Days of Wonder and Auggie, and I'll put a little more detail on those at the end of my explanation of the book as a whole. And all of these are geared towards a middle school audience, but I would say absolutely still have an ability to have a real emotional impact on those that are older as well. Palacio also published Pony in 2021, which is her first standalone novel that is unrelated to Wonder. So I think she has 4 other books that are all related to Wonder in one way or another. She was born to Colombian immigrants in New York City. She studied at the High School of Art and Design and earned her degree from the Parsons School of Design. And she also studied in Paris and traveled widely before settling in North Carolina with her husband, Russell Gordon, and their 2 sons. I think all of that should give you an idea of why she chooses to focus on the things that she does. But let's take a look at the book itself. Here is my summary. I will warn you, there are some spoilers, we'll say. This isn't exactly a mystery-driven narrative, but there are things that happen that if you're going to read the book, maybe you don't want to know them in advance. I mean, just like any good novel, I think it certainly has its elements of interest, and so I would highly recommend that if you do not want any spoilers, to skip ahead. But if you are not afraid to hear a few spoilers, then here is my summary of Wonder. Wonder follows the story of Auggie Pullman, who is a 10-year-old boy who is born with several facial anomalies that are caused by a genetic condition. And due to numerous surgeries and medical complications, Auggie has been homeschooled his entire life. So as the book begins, his parents decide it's time for him to start attending a real school, Beecher Prep, which is a private middle school in Manhattan. This transition marks the beginning of a journey that is at times heartwarming, heartbreaking, and deeply human. The novel is structured in multiple parts, each told from a different character's perspective. We start with Auggie's own voice. It is very raw and it's also entertaining, but obviously you can also hear his weaknesses and his concerns, and it's all very evident in the way he talks. The book follows as he prepares for his first day of school and copes with the stares, the whispers, and the cruelty that he experiences, and that is going to be a big part of the beginning of the book. But we don't hear from just Auggie. We actually are going to hear from quite a few characters. So then we hear from his sister Via. She is fiercely protective of Auggie, and she has learned to live in the shadows of Auggie's medical needs and his constant attention. Her perspective brings a lot of depth and some nuance, and it helps to remind readers that even those that are not in the spotlight still carry some of the emotional weight and are going to be affected by it in many ways. The story expands further, and it narrates from other key characters. We have Jack Will, a boy who befriends Auggie but struggles with peer pressure and loyalty. And then we have some later sections that include Justin, who is Via's boyfriend, who offers an outsider's take on the Pullman family. You also have Miranda, who is Via's estranged friend with no real explanation. That's actually going to be one of the more frustrating elements as they are trying to navigate why exactly that is the case. And as usual, when you actually hear her perspective, there is a lot to unpack about what exactly it means about friendship and relationships and the struggles that a family like Auggie's is facing, especially as you discover her own insecurities that have really shaped her relationship with the family in many unexpected ways. And so throughout the school year, we're going to see Auggie endure a lot of bullying as well as some awkward encounters, but also you do have those moments of triumph that I think are incredibly important for the development of the plot and also for the character development of everyone, not just Auggie. And then finally, the climax of the book occurs during a school nature retreat when Auggie is physically attacked by older kids from another school to be defended by his own classmates. And this is, of course, a moment of solidarity that marks a real turning point in his acceptance and signals about how much he has changed, how much the school around him has changed, and also just a real lesson in how much your attitude towards people can change if you defend them and stand up for them, especially someone that is incapable or is just at a severe disadvantage. In this case, he's literally smaller and it is a larger group of people that are threatening to attack him. And so you will see how that turns out by the end of the novel. Of course, there is one more great final climactic scene. And this final scene, I'll actually just let you read it if you are interested. I don't want to give it away, although I've already given you plenty of other spoilers, but I do think I highly recommend it if this sounds like something that would interest you. I loved this book. I did not cry a single time. I cried many times. I think that it is just one of those rare books that demands a certain type of compassion. I think lots of books try to demand compassion, but this one really, it forces you to be compassionate on an individual. And it also makes this individual a human. It is not the purpose of this book to just show everyone how he overcame a life challenge. On the contrary, there's times when he fails to overcome this challenge. There's times where he lets what people are saying or just his situation to get the better of him. But I think that is all part of the process of helping people to be more compassionate and helping people understand that we cannot expect everyone to do everything. And I think that it doesn't just ask you to sympathize with characters like Auggie. It invites you to see the world not just through his eyes, but through those around him too, that you may not consider. And I think that that is the most powerful element of this. I think R.J. Palacio's choices in crafting the story, and especially the deliberate absence of adult narratives, because adult narratives are intended to be the more mature narratives already from the get-go, and adults are, of course, a little more filtered in what they're going to say. And there are adults in this narrative, and they are, of course, caring and complex, and they themselves also find themselves failing. But I think the fact that the story is told through the voices of young people, it really shows us that development, and it really plays a big role in helping us understand Auggie's development, but also everyone else around them, and exactly what it is that causes them to change their minds, and how you see that playing out in what are very real and frustrating situations for people. Peer pressure and seeing someone that looks different from you. These are real issues that some people just never really learn how to work with or engage with, but you see how these individuals are doing that, and I think that it really provides just an absolutely compelling and inspiring and a wonderful story that I enjoyed from beginning to end. But of course, as we got near the end, I was all the more invested, not just in Auggie, but in his sister, in his sister's friend, and the people that had been friends with him, the people of him that had been unkind to him, all of them. You become much more interested in knowing what exactly is happening to them that is pushing this storyline forward, and how that is affecting a whole community, a whole school. And I just found that so impressive, and I obviously I just have wonderful things to say about this. I have not read the other books in the series. I will, although to my understanding, they're all a little different. Some are illustrated novels, some are just like a collection of aphorisms. So there's a variety of books in the series. I don't know if there's really much more to the larger storyline that gets told. To my understanding, you have the book Auggie and Me, 3 Wonder Stories, that came out in 2015. That's a collection that includes 3 short stories from the perspective of Julian, who, by the way, is actually the main antagonist. He's the one person that I don't think you ever really have particularly kind feelings for a variety of reasons. There is Christopher, who is his oldest friend, and Charlotte, who is one of his schoolmates. And so I don't know anything about these 3 narratives. To my understanding, they don't repeat events from Wonder, but they do give us new windows into how others saw those moments as well as themselves. Then you have 365 Days of Wonder. One of the periphery characters, Mr. Brown, he is known for having his precepts, or like I said, aphorisms. This came out in 2014, and so this is, to my understanding, essentially just a calendar full of these aphorisms that are supposed to be based off of like actual real precepts that individuals have said in the past, as well as individuals from the book are adding to this. Then there is the 2017 book, We're All Wonders. Apparently this is an illustrated book that is meant for younger readers. It introduces Auggie's story in a more accessible format that is intended for educators or even a younger audience. And then White Bird came out in 2019. This is a graphic novel that takes a surprising turn where it focuses on Julian's grandmother, who tells the story of her own life as a young Jewish girl hidden from the Nazis in occupied France. There is a throwaway line in Wonder where he talks about spending his Christmases in France every so often, and he hates it there. It's really boring. His grandma's really boring is what he says. And so you can see how his connections to France and having a Jewish grandmother that survived the Holocaust could possibly have a significant impact on his family. Maybe, I haven't read it, but maybe that goes a long way in explaining why he is the way that he is. But I do not know yet because I have not read it. I am intrigued by that, and I do think that I will probably pick up some of these books. So who is this particular book for? Well, it is for anyone who believes or wants to believe that kindness can be a superpower. I'd say it is an ideal read for middle school readers, especially those navigating things like friendship and bullying and self-identity. It's written in a way that is accessible but not condescending. But beyond that, I'd say it's also for parents and teachers that are looking for a book that sparks meaningful conversation about compassion and inclusion and how to treat people who are different. It's a little older at this point, but hey, I would still read this if it was for a book club or a family read. I think that there's a lot here that demands conversation and compassion in ways that just makes this something worth picking up. I also think that it's for adults who appreciate the emotional fiction, especially those who still appreciate books like Because of Winn-Dixie or Bridge to Terabithia, stories that wrap deep truths in deceptively simple narratives. I think almost anyone should read this. I'll tell you who I don't think it's for, but I think this list is a lot shorter. I do think that there might be some that may not care for the plot structure of the story. So maybe if you think that it's going too slow, it's not enough action, maybe this isn't for you. Or maybe you don't love all the different perspectives. Maybe you don't want to hear children's perspectives. I don't know. Or maybe you prefer more morally complex or ambiguous characters. I think one of the key reasons that it shows so many different perspectives is to show how everyone is human and everyone is, I don't want to say fundamentally good, but they certainly have the ability to be good, and they do show it. And you will see people that even when they fail to do so, they do get opportunities to be good at some point, and it makes all the difference. I don't think this is for cynical readers. So if you're uncomfortable with the sentimentality, maybe you don't want to pick this up, and shame on you. Stop being so cynical. I can certainly be cynical, but I also certainly like to take a step back and enjoy a book that is just meant to play on my emotions in all of the best ways. And that is certainly something that you're going to find in this book. And again, I just don't think I can recommend this enough. I really hope more people pick this up. I know that it's over a decade old at this point. Even the movie has now been out for 7 or 8 years. But I really enjoyed the book. I will be watching the movie at some point. And I really would love to hear what your guys' thoughts are on this book, or maybe any others that are similar to it, or if you've read any of the other books in this series, please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And please, if you're enjoying this video or any of my videos, please feel free to share them. The more people that are aware of this channel, the more videos I can make, and the more diverse videos that I can spend some time on. And don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and until next time, keep those pages turning.